Oh, well, it is so great to be with you today. Here it is Thursday afternoon, and we're getting together again for another lunch and learn. We might have a little background noise. The ice storm that we had a few weeks ago dramatically damaged all the bushes on the hill behind my place. And so the landscapers are out there cutting them all down to the stubs, pretty much. I went to every room in my house, and it doesn't matter where I was at, you can still hear them. So if you hear that background noise, that's what that is about. So today we're going to talk about a topic, and it resonates with every individual. And it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're the owner. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new employee. It's where the intersection of personal life and working life, sometimes it collides, but there's always that intersection. So in our journey through the complexities of life and through the complexities of managing the workplace, we encounter moments where personal challenges, they spill over into our professional life. It affects our productivity, it affects our focus, it affects even our own well-being. So today I want to delve into some strategies and insights to navigate these challenges and also to foster resilience. Here's this word again, empathy and productivity within our teams and also within our own lives. For those of you who know, a few weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago now, I had to cancel last minute the lunch and learn because I had been in Southern California helping my dad. He had a pretty extensive neck surgery. All the things that I thought I was going to get done work-wise, none of it happened. And the night before, I hadn't gotten any sleep. So there was no way I was going to be able to have any sort of an intelligent conversation for a lunch and learn. And that's the reality of life. It doesn't matter that I'm the business owner. It doesn't matter that I'm trying to grow a business and that there's people that I'm wanting to support. There was this time where I had to say, I can't do this. So let's talk a little bit more about that intersection. First of all, personal and professional lives, they are intertwined and they influence each other significantly. I'm old enough to remember the mindset that when you came into work, you left your personal life at the door. Literally, there would just be this like kind of cloak of, okay, whatever's happening in my personal life is no longer relevant and it isn't going to impact the work that I'm doing. And then as soon as you walked out the door of work, it was kind of a reverse. Okay, what happened at work is not going to come with me to home. And I'm just going to put this barrier in between, but that's not reality anymore. A few things have contributed to that. For one, once we all got cell phones, there was that immediate access. And that kind of began the breaking down of the barrier between personal life and professional life. You know, I always have my phone. Even when I was working for an employer, I still always had my phone. I love the focus feature, and so I set it on do not disturb. But even if I'm on do not disturb, I have the settings so that if somebody from my family needs to get a hold of me, they can always get a hold of me. So sometimes there's a text that comes through or a phone call that comes through. And that's just the reality of the world that we live in. Modern life that we live in, it blurs the boundaries now between personal and professional spheres. Working from home, that's been a very big impact and an influence on how this has become a very blurred boundary. I remember especially when COVID hit and everybody was working from home, one of the biggest conversations was, how do I disconnect? You know, some people were really good about setting up an office space and being able to say, this is where I'm working. And so there was a little bit of that disconnect, or they tell their kids if the door is closed, you can't come in, I'm working. And so there was a signal. But what was missing mostly is that commute time, that time where we were physically moving spaces from our workspace to our home space or from our home space to our workspace. So the technology, it has made it increasingly more difficult for us to compartmentalize these aspects of our lives. Another thing is personal experiences, our emotions, stressors, they spill over into the workplace, and this affects focus, it affects motivation, and really it affects overall performance. For those of us in senior care, there are times where I remember I would be taking care of somebody, and the kind of care that I was providing and the issues that they were struggling with, it reminded me of my grandma. And I just kind of choked up a little bit because I loved my grandma and I missed my grandma. Those emotions carried over into the work that I was doing. It's the same thing now. We have made it to where we want people to not invalidate their feelings. We want people to not shut down and to not stuff it all inside. And so when they come to work, they're now being emotional. The emotions that they had from, maybe a fight on the way to work, or maybe it was a struggle to get things ready and get things going. This morning, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning because my husband has to go to work early on Thursdays. And, the emotions of being absolutely super tired because we stayed up too late last night, that's carrying over into the workday and into the rest of my day. So that's the challenge that sometimes can make an impact. And then also just recognizing this interconnectedness. It's crucial for leaders and organizations to understand that the people that are working for them, they are people and they have holistic needs. They don't have just a need for training on the job. They have the needs of their employees who want to be treated as people with minds, people with hearts, people with experiences, people with feelings, people with lives outside of the building. And so it's really important that we as leaders create environments that support their overall well-being. Something else that can cause that intersection is challenges such as health issues, family emergencies. We kind of talked about that. Financial concerns, relationship strains. These all impact a person's performance at work. Health issues, whether it's physical or mental, it can significantly affect a person's ability to perform effectively at work. If somebody's in pain, I don't know if you've ever been in pain, but if you're in pain, it's hard to focus 100% on the work that you're doing. If you're not feeling well, I remember, and I think I've talked about this on previous episodes, I remember the days that if I wasn't feeling well, I would simply just take some Dayquil and suck it up and go to work, and I'd have my bag of Halls to help my throat. We pushed through, but that's not always healthy because I wasn't at my best. And so I wasn't being the most productive. Things got missed because my head was a little foggy or because I wasn't feeling well. And so those are factors that can cause our personal life and our work life to intersect. Family emergencies. If you're caring for an ill family member, or you might have a childcare issue, that can require significant time and emotional energy, which leads to distractions and decreased focus at work. When my kids were young, my daughter's now told me she used to fake being sick and go to the nurse's office so that I would have to come and pick her up. Well, that was very disruptive in the middle of my workday to have to go and pick her up. She's like, "Yeah, Mom, I wasn't really sick." I'm like, "No, really?" She's like, "Yeah, I just didn't want to do the work." But that's it. That's the thing about being a parent, or if you have a family member, those are distractions that we don't get to shut off. The expectation is, especially if there's a crisis or an emergency situation, the expectation is that we're going to be available. And so once that happens, once that call comes in or once that text comes in, then it's a matter of thinking through like, okay, is this resolved? Do I need to do something? Do I need to leave work? Am I okay to stay? And it just is very distracting. And then finally, relationship strains. So I grew up as a Christian, and we would go to church every Sunday. And you know, inevitably, those were not always our best moments going to church. My parents would fight sometimes. Me and my brother would tend to act up really, really fabulously. We would save it all for Sunday morning on the ride to church. And then we'd walk into church and everybody would be like, oh, and we're all so great. That doesn't happen anymore. If there's relationship strains, that impacts, it carries over and it comes into the workplace. It takes our mind, it takes our heart. When things aren't well, when there's not harmony, whether it be at home or at work, that impacts our ability to concentrate and to focus. Again, this goes both ways. If I remember when I was an executive director and there was a situation at work, they didn't need me to come in. It really didn't need me to do much, but I had to be aware of it just because of my position. And for the whole rest of the night, I didn't sleep very well because I just kept I didn't want to miss a call. I didn't want to not be available for my team. Well, that had an impact on my personal life. And then finally, ignoring personal struggles, we can't push those away anymore because that's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to decreased morale and diminished productivity. We as leaders cannot set aside the fact that the people that we're leading are people and that they have real struggles, that they have real concerns, that there are things going on in their lives that maybe we know about, maybe we don't know about, that might cause them to come into work. Somebody who's got a really great personality and is typically very bubbly and kind of the life of the party, they might come in super quiet on a day. And it's our responsibility to understand that there's something going on, and then help them walk through that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some ways that we can help our team. But when personal struggles are ignored, when we push down our emotions, they fester and they grow, and it becomes even more stressful, and it creates more anxiety. And frankly, it's one of the causes of burnout is people are trying to stuff everything, but they also have to manage it. Whether it be at work, whether it be at home, these feelings, these emotions, these thoughts, the constant tug of war of, okay, I need to be focusing on work. I need to be present in this meeting, but I know that this is going on at home, or I need to be really taking care of present for my family and the things in my life right now. But I'm so concerned about things that are going on at work. It's like we never get to shut off. And that's where we find that burnout comes, is if you're never shutting off, if you're never decompressing. We weren't made to sustain that kind of a high need emotionally 24/7. And then employees who feel unsupported, or if they feel unheard in their personal challenges, they may become disengaged. I've seen it where they become very demotivated. That leads to decreased morale and productivity. I have a client that I've worked with before, and she had some personal stuff that was going on that she had to address, and it required her to miss a couple of days of work. And then, frankly, the stress of that caused her to become even more anxious, and she was trying to stay at work, but it was just all a little overwhelming. And so she took a couple of days off, but when she came back, her boss had not been supportive of that. And the boss really gave her a bad time about the fact that she had needed to take that time off. And so I watched her become increasingly negative about this workplace, increasingly negative about a job that she had had for over a year and had loved. She loved the work that she was doing. She loved the people that she was working with. But because of this experience, because her personal life and the demands at that time, which wasn't common for her, but those demands weren't recognized as being valid. And so she ended up leaving the company. It was really sad to see that. I was really sad for her. But addressing personal struggles openly and proactively, that can help prevent burnout. It can boost morale. It maintains those high levels of productivity. And what it does is it fosters a culture of empathy, of support, of understanding within the organization. we spend so much time with the people that we work with. There's the joke about, oh, that's my work wife. Oh, that's my work husband. That's my work bestie. We do have this kind of family feel with the people that we work with. And so why wouldn't we be fully transparent in who we are? Why wouldn't we have a place where we can be fully transparent in who we are and what we're struggling with, or what might be distracting us from being our best, whether it be at work or whether it be at home? Those should be happening, because there's absolutely no way that we're ever going to avoid this intersection of personal life and work life. So let's talk about, how can leaders create a supportive environment? Well, the first thing is to foster a culture of open communication where team members can feel comfortable discussing personal challenges without fear of judgment. If you have somebody come to you and share with you about a struggle that they're going through, they are not wanting you to fix it. I've had to learn that the hard way because I'm a fixer kind of person, but they aren't looking for you to fix it. They aren't looking for you to give them advice. They aren't looking for anything other than a listening ear. No judgment, no, they're not looking for your opinion on the situation, but just simply allowing for them to come in and kind of unload that burden. I'm sure that you've felt that before in your life, where you just needed to talk it through. You just needed to let somebody else in on what's going on so that you're not bearing it all by yourself. Some companies have been able to implement flexible work policies that accommodate employees' diverse needs. And that allows them to balance personal obligations with professional responsibilities. Sometimes it's possible, there's work that doesn't necessarily have to be done Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There's work that can be done outside of those traditional working hours. And so if that's going to be in your employees' best interest, if that's going to support them in the work, in them being able to be great contributors to the success of your company, as well as being able to be great in their personal life, why wouldn't you take a look and say, how can we accommodate this? I remember that I worked with a CNA and her babysitter wasn't available until 8:30 in the morning. And so we just adjusted her schedule, and we made sure that the clients that she was seeing and that she was caring for knew that this was her schedule. And some of them really liked it because some of them wanted to have that care later in the day. Some of them wanted to have that care right before dinner time or right after dinner time. And so it worked out really well. We were able to turn that around. And what could have been a massive obstacle, or we could have said, nope, sorry, you're not available traditional hours, then we can't hire you, or you're going to have to find another job or find another babysitter. We were able to actually use that and say, hey, this is to our advantage. Here's a selling point that we have, for those clients who would better align with her care within her timeline. So what are some flexible work policies that you could implement in order to accommodate employees' needs if something happens? Again, one of the great things about COVID is that it did prove that technically we can all work from home. There's no reason why a lot of work can't be done from home. Obviously, there's work that can't be done from home. There is care that has to be provided in person. There are services that can only be provided in person. A restaurant can't cook their food from home, can't serve their food from home. Those of us in senior care, there's those services that have to be done on site. But there's a lot of the back office, and there's a lot of other opportunities to where people can do some of their work from home. And then the other thing that leaders can do is provide access to resources such as counseling services, wellness programs, financial assistance to support employees during difficult times. Business owners especially, and those of us in leadership, we've gotten into a leadership position because there's things that we know. And so you might not have the ability to offer professional resources, and aside from counseling, but like financial assistance, financial counseling, um, giving that listening ear, giving some advice. You can ask your employee, hey, can I share with you how I've managed through this situation? Those resources just allow your employees to be able to get answers. They might not know. Look, I remember being in my 20s and 30s. There's so much. If I could go back to my younger self, I would say there's so much that you think that you know that you really just don't know. And so we as leaders get to go to our people and say, it's okay that you don't know this. Here's some things that I've learned. Can I share that with you? Can I point you to a resource that I've utilized that helped me that would also be a benefit to you in this circumstance? Of course, we have talked about this, but it needs to be talked about even more. Another thing that leaders offer is empathy and understanding. Leaders and team members need to practice empathy and compassion towards colleagues facing personal challenges. There's a saying about, it says, be kind to others. Nobody knows, you don't know the struggle that another person's going through. That was a gross paraphrase of the quote, but that's the truth. We never know fully what somebody else is going through, what their challenge is. And so when we can be compassionate, if somebody comes in and maybe they snapped a little bit, rather than being like, guy, what's your problem? How about, wow, that's not typical for you. Is everything okay? That's compassion. That's empathy. Putting ourselves into somebody else's shoes and saying, well, I know how I behave. And if I'm behaving this way, it means that something else is going on. So I wonder if that's happening to my coworker or to this team member. And so being willing to ask the question and creating that space of saying, I understand what it's like to be struggling. And you don't even have to say this. Again, people don't always want to hear words, but with your actions and with your heart, you can say, I understand what that's like when real life intersects with work life. And I'm going to give you the space to kind of work through that. And maybe if you need to, let's talk about some options on how we can best support you. Acknowledge the fact that everybody's circumstance is unique. Offer support tailored to their needs. One of the things that I learned really early on in my leadership journey was to never say, I understand exactly how you feel, because I don't understand exactly how they feel. There are a lot of circumstances I've been through in life, but everybody's circumstances are different and everybody's experience is different. It's okay to say, wow, I can imagine that must be really challenging for you. But don't give platitudes that make somebody feel small and diminished, and kind of like glossed over. And then lead by example, demonstrating empathy and understanding in your interactions with the team members. Again, that helps other people go, oh, okay, that's how we're supposed to treat each other when we're having struggles. Okay. Leaders, like everyone else, face challenges in their personal lives that can spill over into their professional responsibilities. So practicing self-empathy is crucial for leaders to navigate these situations effectively. So here's some ways. Let's talk about us as leaders, because sometimes nobody takes into the account that a leader might be having a bad day. And what do? What happens for a leader when their personal life intersects with their work life? So here's some ways leaders can be empathetic to themselves when personal life impacts. First of all, acknowledge the personal struggle. Recognize and accept it's natural to face personal challenges that may affect your work. Avoid dismissing or downplaying your own emotions and experiences. Just because you're the leader does not mean that you don't have feelings. Just because you're the leader does not mean that there aren't hardships happening outside of the doors of work, or that just because you're the leader doesn't mean that you can automatically shut it off when you leave work and that you're not going to carry that home. Don't downplay your emotions and be like, well, it could be worse. What you're feeling is real and what you're feeling is valid. When I talk with people about feelings, one of the things that I share with them is feelings aren't right and feelings aren't wrong. They just are. We want to validate feelings, but we don't necessarily take actions based on feelings. So it's okay to say to yourself or to say to people around you, and again, you don't have to vomit this all over the workplace, but it's okay for those few trusted people to say, I'm really struggling. I've got this situation at home, or I'm struggling because of this situation at work. Acknowledging the fact that you are having feelings is a really good step in caring for yourself. And then set realistic expectations. Understand that you may not be able to perform at your highest level during a time of personal turmoil. Adjust your expectations and workload accordingly, allowing yourself the flexibility to focus on self-care and prioritize those essential tasks. My mother-in-law passed away a year ago. I get a little choked up about it still. She was a great lady. And I remember when she passed away, I was a director of business operations for a hospice agency. And it was one of those things. I got the call at 2:00 in the afternoon. And my husband called to say that he had gotten a call about his mom. And so I immediately went home. And yet I knew that there were so many things that I still had to get done for the rest of the day. And I called my boss and I explained what was going on. And he just reminded me, you get done what you can get done, but your top priority at this point is taking care of your husband, taking care of his family, and taking care of yourself. And then over the next few days, as the shock wore off and as we were preparing for the funeral and needing to take some bereavement time, it was recognizing that I wasn't going to be at the highest level. It was kind of interesting. My boss, he was like, it seems like, Jill, you're the only one who realizes that you're not going to be at your best right now. We're all cutting you that slack because this is just real life and it happens. And then practice, kind of playing into this, is practicing self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would extend to a friend facing similar challenges. Remind yourself it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take breaks when needed. And it's okay for you to seek support. Don't hesitate to lean on your network of support, whether it's friends or family, whether it's colleagues. Reach out for assistance or guidance when navigating difficult situations and be open to receiving support from others. It's one of the things sometimes that leaders don't do very well. I'm the leader. I'm in charge. The buck stops with me. What happens if I'm not available? Well, that's just not an option. Well, again, sometimes in life, we have to set that aside and we have to let other people come in and help. One of the conversations I will have, one of the questions I'll ask, I was working with a client and she was really struggling with delegating, and it was capping off the capacity of her business to grow. And so one of the questions I asked her was this: what would happen if all of a sudden you woke up tomorrow and you were absolutely paralyzed? You weren't able to come into work. You had had this episode overnight and you weren't able to come into work and you were completely off the grid for 3 months. What would happen? And it made her understand that she had set up the organization to fully rely on her. Well, a few weeks later, she had a death in the family and it was very unexpected. And that's exactly what happened, is she was unavailable. She was emotionally unavailable. She was physically unavailable. She was dealing with all of the other issues related to this passing that happened. And when she came back, her and I met, and she said, you know what? My staff stepped up. They took care of things. I didn't have to worry about anything. They had it. And so what she's come to realize is that she doesn't have to carry that load by herself. It's okay for her to ask for help when things are getting a little overwhelming. Prioritize activities that promote your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Make time for activities you enjoy. Life can be hard enough as it is. We do not need to add to it by not engaging in activities that bring us joy, whether it be exercises, your hobbies, spending time with loved ones, whatever you need to do to recharge and rejuvenate. I go back and forth. Either I want to lock myself in the room and just read a good book, or I want to go out for a great hike. Those are some practices of self-care that we as leaders need to do when personal life and real life, or personal life and work life, is intersecting. And it's important for us to remember as leaders that our team is watching. When we act a certain way, the actions that we do, our team is watching, and we're subconsciously sending a signal that this is what is accepted as behavior in our workplace. So if you're sick and you don't take the day off, and you're like, oh, I know I'm sick and I know I sound like crap, but I'm going to push through, that communicates to the rest of your team that it's not okay to be sick. Oh yeah, I know my kid is sick, but they'll be okay. They can text me if they need anything. That sets an expectation that your team cannot take care of their family. So remember that we want to be leading by example, demonstrating self-compassion and self-care behaviors to your team, modeling also healthy coping mechanisms, and destigmatizing discussions around personal challenges in the workplace. Again, everybody's a person. Everybody has things going on in their life. And so for us to be able to create an environment where we can talk to each other, that's going to help us support each other. And in that support, that's going to do nothing but improve your company and improve the culture of your company. Wow, I talked a lot today, but I want to just conclude with this. Navigating the intersection of personal life and working life, it requires a delicate balance of empathy, flexibility, and understanding. By creating a supportive environment, practicing that empathy, setting realistic expectations, and promoting self-care, we empower our teams to overcome personal challenges while remaining productive and continuing on with well-being at work. Thank you so much for being here. Dean, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
No, I think it's spot on. Like you said, even in the indirect ways we behave as leaders, we are leading by example.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and that you continue to join us for the Lunch and Learns for leaders and those who want to be. You can pass on this information to anybody that you feel would be of benefit to coming to our weekly gathering. If we're not already connected on LinkedIn, let's connect on LinkedIn. You can find out more about the work that I'm doing at linkconsulting.info, and you can also get your free version of Confident Leadership, how to be a confident leader of a committed team providing stellar care. Until next week, take care. Bye.